chase success with Global.Media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne or...
Hello, everyone. Hello. Sorry to keep my world waiting. Apologies. I was on a different show and we were just wrapping up. You know, I'm sure you know how long it takes to leave an event where you are speaking. So I was being polite, but I was impolite to keep you waiting, my friends. You know, look, if you're here, please drop us a comment. Let's not, tell us, say hi, say where you're joining us from. Give me some of your thoughts on the topic. So we'd love to hear your ideas. Of course, this room is never just about me talking. I'm talking at anyone. You know, I want a conversation. I want a conversation with my brothers and sisters. Yeah, I'm just doing my YouTube channel. So I want a conversation with my brothers and sisters. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your realities, your experiences, your journey, your stories, as I was just talking about just now before joining here. So I'd love to know what you think, what you feel, what you've been through, and what you've learned, right? So I would love to restart my computer as well. And I haven't done that yet. So if I do freeze, my friends, bear with me. Just give me a minute or two, and I will do my best to come back at speed as Michael's got serious internet issues, it tells me. Michael, why have you got internet issues? What is bothering you about the internet? But I saw you in the studio just now, Michael, so do come back. My friends, if you want to join the studio, the link is in the comments on the event page. You might have to minimize the screen for this event, and then you find the comment section there. Okay, I'm moving my screen, but I can't. It's not going to show until about now. Yes, takes a few seconds. Mr. Arthur, my social media video creator all the way in South Africa. Glad you're here, Arthur. Arthur, we've got business to do, my friend. We have work to do. I know you sent me a couple of videos earlier. We're gonna have to find them and watch them. That way I can. It's not as though I trust your ability already in terms of being a video creator, the multimedia creator. You know, so I'm glad that you're here. Let's talk. Let's make it happen. Dr. Lisa, we have our room tonight where we talk about menopause. What we're talking about tonight? Wellness with April. So April Wyatt is our guest speaker. Do connect with Dr. Lisa. She is a genius for all things menopause. Is that you, Christiana? I don't know. Yes, Christiana. Christiana is here. So we've got our event on Thursday, Christiana and I. Christiana talks miscarriage and baby loss. So do join us. You know, so of course, Dr. Lisa is amazing. Arthur is amazing. Michael is amazing, and Christiana and everyone. I guess I'm lucky to know people who do amazing things, right? And that gives me joy. That gives me the most joy. You know, so which might be something to add to our topic. You know, so maybe that's really what fuels me today. Christiana says, "Yes, it's me. I know it's you, Christiana. I can see on the LinkedIn, but I can't see on here. You are a LinkedIn user, right?" Anyway, my friends, you know, I guess what's the big news? Dr. Lisa is going to laugh at me later on, but I survived my 48-hour water diet. Oh man, I can't. It's hard to explain the joy. The joy when I got to eat last night. Eventually, Christiana, you know, I cooked some Nigerian bean stew, right? Of course I did. Yeah. I couldn't eat enough of it. I couldn't eat a lot of it because I suppose I got used to not eating at all. You know, am I going to do a 2-day water diet again? No, I'll try not to. And I haven't lost my mind. So I've got a 16-year-old who's a fitness freak, and he insists that it's good for my health. But it's threatening me with 24-hour. Is it fasting? No, it's not really fasting, is it? Because I can drink water, right? I can drink water. I can drink green tea. I can eat celery. Apparently, I'm saying that none of that appeals. The only thing that appeals is drinking normal tea, but I can't do that. Yes, Arthur, I think we stopped eating at midnight on Saturday. Couldn't eat anything at all and couldn't drink anything. And the next time we could eat was Monday night at midnight. A full 48 hours. I mean, beforehand, my son's like, let's just eat. I'm like, no, we got this far. What's the point just eating, right? Lisa, I'm amazed you survived. I tell you, I survived. I don't know I don't know how much good it's done for me, Lisa. I gotta say, my wife keeps saying that. Oh, what? Listen, you've had a detoxing, whatever that means. It sounds like a lot of hard work. Cristiano saying, well done, Annie, trying to get my husband to do 17 hours fasting. Why do you want to do that, Cristiano? Why do you want to do that? 17 hours. That's a long time, right? That's a whole day. Now, I guess you're just not counting the sleep time. Unless your husband is sensible and he goes to sleep halfway through and then stays asleep for most of it. I'll try and do that next time. So my thing was whether whether I did my water diet. I'm moving stuff around, Cristiano. So I make quite a lot. So I'm moving stuff around. I'm making quite a lot of. You didn't finish your sentence, Cristiano. You're echoing quite a lot of sense and sensibility, sense of panic. I don't know. It's. I don't know. Well, I've done it now, haven't I? I've done it. I've actually done. I don't think I've ever gone without eating for 2 days in my life. So it's water fasting and up to 72 hours. No, 48 hours is enough. That's enough. That's my next challenge anyway. Good luck with that, Cristiano. But then I don't know how you can go without eating. You're so little anyway. She's 3'9". I feel like I need shout. I can just hear her swearing, from where she is right now. I'll get over it. Right, my friends. I'm still having too much fun. I think. Is it too much fun? I'm just having a lot of fun. Publishing books, making videos, being an advert for brands. What? Nah. Let me try to say that again. I've got a new client. They're a fashion brand. They make clothes, and they pretty much come to us and go, we want to sell our clothes, our products. They are unique. Excellent is what Annie says. They're unique. They're different. They're comfortable. They're quality. They're sustainable. They are. They're for everyone. I'm like, everyone. That means it's not really for anyone, right? But it's a chance for us to create a brand out of nothing, out of someone's idea. So we are creating a vision, an identity for the brand. On the back of the identity comes content that we're going to be sharing on all the platforms. I hope to bring them to events, of course. Who don't I bring to events? So hopefully, it's not hopefully, you'll get to meet them. The problem is that very small brands that are shy don't want to be their own voice, which is rather weird. But I'll work through that. So as I'm spending my days directing my design friends, my design team, if you want to call it that, my design partners to create genius. So that will do in time. Christian, have you come to scream at me?
No.
That's all right. Then. Hello, JJ. How you doing? Yeah, that's a lovely JJ you had in the background.
Didn't hear you louder.
Hello, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Nah, I'm
It's
glad
good
you're here,
to be here.
Christiana. Eh?
Good to be here.
Yes.
It's been a while.
I'm happy. You know, it feels like it's been a long time, Christiana, but it hasn't really, has it?
It has.
How? How comes? And it's only been a week. You went to, you had the funeral to go to last week.
Yes.
Notice my careful choice. I didn't say you had your funeral. That would be a whole different meaning to things, right? So I didn't say that. I made sure I didn't use those words.
Ellie,
It
I
wasn't
am
your funeral.
alive and well and kicking, and hopefully we'll be kicking you when I see you.
Yes. That's all right. Like, you always trying to harm my poor little self. My poor little nice self. You always want to cause damage too, because I don't know. Is it what I say? Is it what I do?
That's because you're always swearing at me or swearing to me. And that's a one no for me.
I've never sworn
That's
at
a
her.
no.
Never once have I said it in a wrong word to Christiana or about Christiana either. I'm always nice to her, always.
You and your beans.
Yes. Oh, I cooked a good one last night, Christian. I gotta say, Christiana, I cooked a good
I've
one.
still got yours.
You gotta send it. What good is it? If you got mine, it's sitting there. What's it doing?
It's in the freezer, or they are in the freezer rather. Not it's.
Okay,
They are.
okay. Yeah, no. And is rather greedy, and Christiana is, is a legend. She's a star who doesn't want me to starve to death, so she will cook beautifully, beautifully. Well, the only thing we have to work out is how to get the food over a journey. What, 5 hours?
Yeah. 5
Yeah.
hours drive.
That it's defrosting, getting lost, getting eaten by someone else, leaking over someone.
I think we'll have to courier it.
Yes, that's it's going to leak over them, right? Let's hope not. Let's hope not. We'll work it out. We'll work it out for sure.
Definitely.
So Cristiano is one of my trusted, people who do stuff I can't do. So for what I do in terms of on the book side, I told you about the event. On the book side, Cristiano is one of my super editors. So I'm lazy. I'm lazy. I like to publish books. I do things. To publish a book, you have to write the book first. Then you need someone to help guide you through the process of writing a book. You need someone to guide you through the process of improving the book. That's Cristiano for you. That's my team. They'll do all that stuff with you. I don't want to do all that. I just want to publish the book and then launch the book and take all the credit at the end. Yeah. Yay. Anyway, so get to know Cristiano, please, and do connect with her. Cristiano.
Thanks, Annie. How kind of you. Thank you very much. But you know what you're doing already, so it's great stuff. You've been in this industry. In fact, what how do I say it? The reason they call you godfather, you're not just only a godfather of LinkedIn, you're literally a godfather of most things.
Only because I'm old.
You are
because I'm old. I've been around since the dinosaurs.
You are rooted in all of it. Rooted in live, rooted in in LinkedIn audio when it was audio. You're rooted in publishing, rooted in all the editing that needs to be done if you choose to do it. So definitely you are rooted.
I think that again, thank you for your kind words. I'll put £10 in the post on the way to you, right?
Is that it?
You could have been a fiver. You could have been a fiver, right? I'm offering a tenner.
Send me $1 million. That would be great.
A tenner. That's what you're gonna get. A tenner is it's worthy of such kind words, Christiana, right? But I think that there is something there in terms of our conversation today, right? Look, let's start the conversation, and if anyone else wants to join the studio, feel free. Otherwise, at least I got Christiana to pick her brains and to get some alternative viewpoints. No one ever wants just my viewpoints, by the way, because I'm any, and sometimes if I'm being funny, not funny, haha, funny peculiar, I can cause distress to many people. Michelle, welcome. Right, Christiana, here's my problem. Here's why I picked this topic. I could have picked many other ones, but I thought, no, I want to talk about this one. See,
Yes.
I don't know whether there is an issue with how African entrepreneurs or African businesses and professionals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether there's an issue with how they see themselves, or whether there's an issue with how the world sees them and us.
Okay.
Because it's still,
What do you mean? Break it down.
right. Yeah, and I'm trying. I don't know whether again it's an everyone issue. I just think there's low trust, low belief in the value that African businesses can offer.
Yes.
Right.
Why is that?
I mean, yeah. Why is that? Is what I want to discuss today, really, right? I don't know. I think maybe there's an issue with how people see entrepreneurs. Full stop. Which I would take. An issue of how the world sees it. Maybe it's not an African thing, but part of me believes that there is an African thing there. So last night. Was it last night? Yeah, last night. Early yesterday evening. I'm thinking, I need me a genius video maker, right? To make TikTok videos.
Yes.
I could easily learn myself. I looked, and I watched. You have to watch those videos to see exactly what the hell is involved.
Painfully, yes.
Yes, and it's painful. They were very painful. So I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask William, not William. I'm going to ask Arthur in South Africa. Can you help me? Can we work together for this client? My point today is that not many will do that. Not even many Africans in the diaspora will do that. Or even those who do reach out to professionals in Africa, those who do reach out to businesses in Africa for what they want. Many end up with nightmare stories. So my real question is, how do we compare with others, both in our minds and in the minds of the people that we want to help, work with, support, sell to? Call it what you like, Christiana. I'm saying that how do we really compare? Because ultimately, if you're not choosing me, if you're not choosing an African professional at what they do, you're going to choose someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that choice is often the result of a comparison, between what I would get if I call someone in the UK, which would cost me often more, and often mean different, what's the word? Different ties, different overheads. That's what we call it here, right? As opposed to getting a freelancer in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Uganda, so in South Africa, which often will cost us less. You see, the flip side of this, Christiana, is that everyone promotes the entrepreneurship entrepreneurial spirit of our African brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yes.
asking, I'm asking myself, are they ready? Are they able to deliver?
I must say that in my experience, it depends on the industry that you want that work done. We mustn't make the mistake of using a broad brush approach to this subject. I know that I've had dealings with, and not from a seeking services perspective, but also previously from a wanting to um, have people on my team or have freelancers, whether it's property, whether it's social media, whatever it is. Different things happen in different industries. And the one thing that I think we have to remember, especially now, times are changing, things in Africa are changing rapidly all the time. Africa is currently, I would say Nigeria is said to be one of the most thriving country in the continent, by 2030, I believe was the last report. So that in itself is a positive thing. Here is where we have certain issues. So it's sorry, your nephew wants my attention. The minute I get on the screen, you know what children are like.
He's
They
a
will,
star,
they
really.
will,
That's why.
they will
He's a
ignore
star of
you
the show.
all day until they see that phone or that video come on,
Yeah,
and then they want
yeah,
your
yeah.
attention. So my
No,
apologies. So as I was saying, there is this, and you're right, we have to look between perception and what is reality. Okay, this is perception of when we go overseas, we expect things to be slightly more competitive, no, less competitive in terms of fees, charges, cost, pricing. That's the first thing. Then we're comparing that and saying, well, if you're over there, you can't be as good as those who are deemed to be in the West. Okay. And the truth of the matter is, whether you're in Africa, whether you are in the Philippines, which used to be the it's funny, Africa is coming up now. Philippines used to be where everybody used to go to access services, whether that be a VA services at $5 an hour or something along those lines. And so there is this idea, and I think it's a mindset thing globally of how we perceive others in another country. I can look at it from a West perspective to an African perspective. It's a mindset thing. There is an expectation that we carry even before we've approached, the professions or the work we're seeking for them to do for us. And so when we have these expectations those and they're not met, there is that almost like an instant doubt, an instant begrudging that happens, as to say, well, if I'm paying you X amount of money and you're in Africa, why should I be why shouldn't I just stay here where I am in the UK, US, Canada, and pay people locally to me the same amount? So when you think about it, if we are going in with that mindset, that attitude already, it straight away devalues. And I think what's happening, and I've heard this conversation, I've been in rooms where we've had this conversation where our people feel a little bit devalued because they are in Africa. And let's not forget the opinions that we have of our African brothers and sisters from a Western perspective. The great example of that is the adverts that we keep seeing on our televisions, you know, of children who are poor, as if just Africa is nothing but just children who are poor. So there's that perception when we're going to seek services, we carry that same perception. So there's still that perception that we're going to this to ask for services. We expect it to be, somewhat cheap, and we expect it to be what we want it to be, and we question whether or not they are professional, whether they can produce the goods, but they're trained. Sorry, my child is not wanting to let me have this conversation this afternoon. I'm going to pause for a second. I'm just going to say hi to Michelle and hi to, is it Michael here? Let me just see what he wants. Sorry.
But perfectly fine. Understand totally. Thank you. Look, it's all of that dynamics that's going on that is bugging my poor little mind. That's why I'm having this conversation today. That perception thing, it does exist. Do we have we earned it is a question, right? As Africans, have we earned this undercurrent of I'm choosing second best, and given the choice, I would choose someone else from somewhere else. Now, that's what's bugging me. Now, Michael, what's your take?
Well,
What's
I'd
your
like to
take?
experience. I'd like to experience what you experienced. I'd like to
Okay.
hear what you
Yeah.
experienced.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Because
fair
I
enough.
know you've got more. You've been down this road several
Mm,
times,
mm.
and you've got a lot to say with respect to why you're actually bringing this up.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that being the case, I would like to hear more because
Yeah.
I have very little information right now with regards
Mm.
to what you're trying to translate.
Well,
And
I suppose.
give
Look,
me a picture, draw me a picture,
I
several
will. I will.
pictures,
Okay.
so that
Now
I
you've
can
asked.
understand where you're going from.
Now you've asked. Now you've
Ellie,
asked. I will. Go.
Michael needs a diagram.
Yeah. No. I think it's fair enough. He knows I've got a bigger gripe than I'm letting on. That's what Michael knows. He knows I got a bigger problem than I'm alluding to, right? Because
Yeah,
clearly
I'm sensitive to your emotions right now.
yes,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's kind of using my emotional intelligence to cover that.
I appreciate that. Oh, okay. Look. Maybe it's a conversation about company structure on one level. I say that because if I'm going to get freelancers in Africa, for example, I don't expect them to buy into my mission the way I would expect an employee to. That's my way of saying whenever I've employed staff in Africa, in my mind, I know it's temporary because I don't feel they have the buy-in. I don't feel they have the vision. I don't feel they have the commitment to deliver long term. Of course, like many other people, Michael, I've been let down many times by many people. And I suppose maybe it hurts me more when when I feel let down by people who I choose in Africa, especially Michael. And maybe that's my gripe, right? And maybe I expect appreciation and being all in, all no, I can give you experiences. I can give you people who said to me, "Oh no, I'm not going to do that unless you're going to pay me more." You're like, "You haven't done what I paid you for. What am I going to pay you more for?" and they sort of they think a different thing about business, and they think a different thing about customer service. Now, this is my gripe, really. I think compared to maybe not, I'm not. I don't want to rank the rest of the world. I think I'm always ever hopeful, Michael, that someone's going to say to me, "Any, you're just wrong. You're bigoted. You're ignorant, and you just got this all wrong." Michael, you'd have to tell me that anyway, right? You know,
I do that quite often,
right?
but at the same time, I would like you to go even deeper. Give me three examples of what you're talking about, especially the worst ones. What exactly happened?
Oh. Is it? I've no, I've told you, and as good as I can possibly tell you. I think it's when people don't deliver, Michael, I have a hissy fit. I have literally a hissy fit. When people are not as good as they say they are, I feel cheated. When people are not committed, when people don't see or value my mission, I feel cheated, insulted. Yeah, I can't do that. I could find more words, I'm sure, but I just feel wronged, right? And this has happened too many times to me, And so now, almost like now, if I'm gonna call someone in Africa, I almost do not expect that to be a long-term thing, but not because they can't, not always because of the lack of skill. It's more the makeup of the person, Michael. Too many people just want money. They don't care about the work. And if you know me, my issue is purely no, it's not purely. My issue is about the work primarily because I know doing the work is what's going to get me more money in the end. But when I go to my friends in Africa and say, right, here's the work we're doing, here's what we're committed to, suddenly I start seeing them being flaky, Michael. Suddenly I start seeing them having ill relatives, dead dogs, houses burning down. You know that's all rubbish, right? This is what annoys me. And I guess maybe one of my big gripes is that some of the people I call on, in Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya, and Uganda, they are they haven't got the vision, Michael. They haven't got the vision. They can't see, and they haven't got the wherewithal to almost create more than I tell them. Does that make sense? Michelle, you're right. It,
Yes,
it,
it
it
does
makes
make
me sad.
sense.
It makes me sad. That's why, I'm hoping, as always with this room, I'm hoping our conversation will spark someone to say, okay, I'll do things differently. I will, I will, I'll be the person that I can be. I'll be the best I can be, whatever that means. Being the best you can be is not just saying it, it's also about doing it. It's also about taking the steps to become that person who does that, the expert.
That's why any I'm asking for details. I know that you're a manager and I know you expect work to be done a specific way. And I know that you've got uh, uh, experience in what has let you down, and you can actually name it. Give me a specific picture so I can understand you, and then I can understand them, and then I can give you a solution, or they can give you a solution. But you need to know we need to know what happened. What's going on with this back and forth, and why are you saying this? Because it's kind of like, we're trying to we have without information necessary um, to figure out what the issue is, we cannot bring the correct bag of tools to fix the problem.
I don't think
That's
we
why I'm
need
asking
to.
for the
I
actual.
don't
I'm
think we need
asking
to
for
be.
specifics.
Are you
I don't.
saying?
That way
Are you
I
saying
can
Eddie's been
drill
evasive,
in.
Michael?
I'm. Yeah,
I'm an engineer.
I'm not being
I need these
evasive.
things.
I am. I am being guarded to a degree.
Mindful.
Yes, that's the word, Christiana. That's the word. You know.
I understand it.
And
You
I
don't.
think.
You don't want to throw any stones as such.
No, no, no. But look, I think deep down there are three things that I think affect us. Like Christiana and I have talked about perception of others and maybe perception of ourselves as well. If I say perception of others, Michael, it sounds like we don't get the business we want. We don't get the credit. We don't get the opportunities as Africans to do work with people abroad or even at home because we don't believe we can. And people don't believe we can. That again, that sounds general, but it's not general at all, right? I always ask the
No.
question, Michael. I always ask the
When
question.
I look at Nigerians abroad,
Yeah.
I get the impression of can-do attitude,
Mm-hmm.
not the weekend attitude.
Mm.
Absolutely not. That's not the impression they provide me. They
Okay.
bust their butts to get over and do things done, blah, blah, but that's abroad.
Mm.
Now, you're talking about Africa, those that are still left in Africa. You don't get the same attitude, and I can understand that. I've seen
Okay.
it.
So
And I
let's
also
stay there.
understand where you're
Let's
coming
stay
from when
there.
you're saying you're trying to do business in Africa.
See,
It's
let's stay
because they
there for
don't
a
have the
second,
same
Michael.
attitude.
Michael, let's stay there for a second. You've seen it for yourself, right? Why don't we get the same attitude? Why don't we get the same determination, the same hunger, the same will to
Because they
deliver?
have defeated themselves before they have even tried. When they come to when they think that the other place is the place to do it, so their environment is not conducive enough for to do these things that they need to do. That's what they think. That is why they don't bust their butt. Their mind, they're already defeated in their mind before they even accepted the project or the attempt. All they do is just accept the project because it's an opportunity to make not big bucks, but just a little bit to get by. And they'll tell you anything you want to hear as a result. And they will work without busting their butt. I could say that the only difference is those that are currently in Burkina Faso and working in Burkina Faso for Burkina Faso. That's where you see the difference. You have to give them hope and you have to put them in an environment, and that is what that president is doing. He's giving them hope and he's putting them in an environment that allows for hope to succeed. The
Let's
leaders of the other African countries have not done that. They
right,
continue to
right.
squander the hope of the citizens or civilians, and you've got to do the same. You've got to give them hope
Burkina
because
Faso, here I come.
from the story you just told me,
Hmm.
before they even came into the picture, you were just basically wanting them to do the job. But before you could even ask them to do the job, you had already failed them. with your mindset. You had said they had failed already before they had even started the job. You had told them, I cannot even see you succeeding in this, but I'm going to give it a try. You've already failed them. How on earth are you going to see them through with an attitude like that?
Because
It's going to be
they
conveyed from
right.
leadership. You know what I'm
Look,
saying? The
yeah,
leadership, the leadership assumption is that you're going to fail. And so, in everything that you do, even in your emotional intelligence, you convey that failure to them. And they assume it, they embody it, and they give it right back to you.
yes, yes.
That's
They play it
exactly what's
out.
going on.
They,
Yeah. You've
okay,
got to
and
change your
they do.
mindset in
Mm.
order for them to change their mindset.
Isn't that the challenge, though, Michael? Isn't that the challenge? That's exactly that's
But
you've got to.
at least you know it now. At least you know.
Yeah,
And
and
that
so
is why I'm asking for details. What happened? Because it's on both sides.
you see
Of the equation.
when I ask the question, how do we compare? The reason I say I use those words is pretty much now what you just said, Michael. Before we begin, I already have an expectation that you're going to let me down. You're going to not pull your weight. You're going to be like one of my biggest mistakes. So, what is your option? That, like you like now, as you say, which I agree with. Too many prove my low expectations right. They prove I was right to be afraid to bring them along. Almost as if they don't realize that I have choices. I can go somewhere else. And I would love for the ones who say, no, I've got this. I've got this, and I can do this, and I want to do this, and I will do this. And then they set about proving that rather than the ones who say, oh, he expects nothing of me, so I'm going to behave like I'm a third rate professional. If you know, and I use that word professional very loosely when it comes to some people. I would love for everyone to rise and say, yes, I am an exceptional talent at what I do. That's not what I get. What I get is defeated attitude
I know.
before
I
we even
understand
start.
that. I understand that. But like I said, my position is such that um, I always put the buck square on the leader. The leader has to set an example and be the example. Otherwise, the the universe that you're trying to bring them into is not going to bend and accept them. They've got to actually knock on the door and walk through it in order to meet you on the other side of the universe. And you've got to implore them to do so. If you do not do it correctly, they're not going to make it, even if they may want to, but it has to be done correctly.
You see,
I'd like other people to have an opinion on this, who may have an opinion on this, to actually.
yeah. Now let's talk to Coach. I love Coach's comment. They didn't say Coach says the defeated attitude is coming from a conditioned reflex. Coach, share
Yes,
with us. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm good. I'm excited. Thanks, Annie. Christina, good to see you. Been a minute. Michael, how are you? Great brother. We have some plenty conversations as usual. Annie, thank you for putting this together. Awesome, interesting stuff. And the
Thanks
awareness
for
of the
jumping in, Coach. Nice to meet you.
yes, my brother. Yes, my brother. The awareness of a problem is the beginning of the solution of the problem. the awareness of the size, the complexity, that we could even define it as an area, and so that we can prompt the necessary amount of budget, intervention, ideation, and all of that around it. Yeah, Michelle, good to see you, everyone on the call. So, um, there is
Let
some,
me interrupt you, Coach. One
yes,
second. There is a factor that Coach and I had been looking at the other day. Um, I think what do you call it? It's the attitude where you think that you are inferior.
yeah,
What were we calling that, Coach? What did we call that?
the I think it was
Inferior
complex,
complex?
inferiority complex, inferior complex. That's what we call
Yes,
it.
yes, yes. If you can also inject into talk about that,
Yes,
Coach, I'd
yes,
certainly
yes,
appreciate it. Thank you.
yes, yes. First of all, psychologists have said that everyone has complex. Some have inferior, some have superior, and some have normal complex, which is not inferior, not superior, but still a complex. And still, and the best place or the optimal place to live is no complex zone. But the world is a complex place. That's why life is not balanced. Seldom do you have a situation where it's neutral complex, where there's no complexity at all, where someone is not, where systems or structures aren't trying to bear down on you, or something isn't trying to show you are inferior, or you are also, or you also. Some people as defense mechanism now pick that up, and then I want to defend themselves by growing superior complexities, and then there may not be superior or inferior complex, in the other types of complex. But anyway, please understand where the African professional is coming from, especially in the context of the diaspora. Number one, you are like fish out of water. You are out of you're like freshwater fish, and you're in salty oceanic environment. This is not your own terrain. So there is some complexity there, or some anxiety right there. There is something there, and that factor should not be underestimated. You're an African, maybe a first generation migrant, or your parents are the first generation migrants. It's a big deal. So that's the first factor. And you don't know the conditions by which people left Africa, but anyone who is in the West, first of all, are very strong people. Majority of the not so psychologically strong people that I know, we go back home. It's a matter of 3, 4 years. Anyone who stays beyond the 3, 4 year, 5 year cycle are very strong people. And they didn't leave their houses to fail or to look inferior at work. No. There's something about the workspace, the environment, and some of it is deliberate. I mean, there is no excuse for now allowing that to overwhelm you, but I'm just saying that in context and in situ, there is a system in place. And if you're really a confident person, that system seeks to break you. That system seeks to break you. You're going to be identified as a key potential, like simple traits, like the ability to say your mind in a meeting very clearly is very rare among African professionals. And if you seem to have it, the energy will be felt in meetings, and they're going to set to the task of breaking you. Here's the sad truth: co-migrants are also classifying people. So you've got Indians, Pakistanis, and Lebanese who have inserted themselves in between Caucasian and the African, which is very annoying for me. Now, to even be aware there's a social construct like this is a lot of work for many Africans to even understand. It takes people about 2, 3, 4, 5 years to understand the social construct where there's the Caucasian on top of the food chain, and there is the Arabian, Middle Eastern, Chinese, everybody else in the middle, and then the African man or woman at the bottom of the ladder. Now, the issue is that for many very confident Africans who they sell the imposter syndrome to eventually, you start out very confidently. You come to a place and you are sparking fire. You come guns blazing in class. You Because in Africa, the person who could be able to pay for the masters or whatever made you come to this country, you're not a small person in your country. You got some fire up your belt. You're not the Joneses that came. No, no. Majority of the time, you're upwardly mobile and very sharp. I mean, for the average Nigerian, for example, 1 degree is not enough. If you come from some certain tribes, even your cat or chicken is going to have like 3 degrees. You come with you come with who are they? Is it PhD? I mean, in the United States, it's identified that the country with the highest amount of educational qualification in the United States. Not that they went abroad to study. The University of New York, McMallory, whatever university, Harvard, Stanford, whatever, is Nigerians. Highest number of degrees. The average Nigerian has two minimum. You stay 4 or 5 years as a Nigerian in any of these Western economies, your body is doing if you just take a certification for apparently maybe at times no cost. I mean, I've heard Nigerians say things like, "Oh, I feel like to go from that course." I'm like, why? They just want to keep developing. Now, those are very powerful things. But when you now come to the workspace, there are people who have been there 23 years who are not used to a black person having ingenuity, a black person being very creative, a black person that's very agile. Gradually, they find a way to sell, and that's what Michael is saying. That inferiority complex to you as a sales process. First of all, I mean, you say something and somebody refuses to acknowledge it, and it just goes on as if you didn't see anything. Now, to someone that's not mentally resilient or you've not developed anti-inferiority complex mechanisms, those things can really be frustrating the first time you encounter them. I see it a lot of times. I mean, I've been ignored in many meetings, and the more you ignore me, the more nauseating I get with intelligent. I'll just say my stuff again another way because you're not going to make me leave a meeting with that inferiority complex deposits. But many people will just shoot themselves. And they're expecting that behavior. You see, it's a psychological programming that started in the pre-colonial eras, where they came into our continent in quote. I'm sorry, I'm referring to that, and they can see that you are very intelligent. In fact, I've seen people who are of the Caucasian persuasion that when they see a black person, it irritates. They can't believe. There's a feeling. They can't believe that you're that intelligent. They are genuinely shocked. I mean, one guy came to ask me and said, "What school did you finish from your first degree?" So I told him, I said, Lagos State University. He said, "Where is that?" I said, "What course you studied?" I said, "Electronics Computer Engineering." I said, "How many years ago?" I said, "This was before the turn of the millennium. My matriculation number was 96. So I entered school 96, I finished 2001. I said, "You mean Africa is that developed since that time?" I had to keep my hand in my pocket because the way she said it, I was going to tell her that, excuse me, the first professor of engineering, we had the first PhD in engineering in probably the 40s or 50s in Nigeria. I wanted to tell her that the first professor, and in electronics engineering, I think the first professor was probably 1950 something. and look, he got it from what do you call this school here in the UK? There was one from Cambridge, there's another one from Oxford. I said, we got, don't go there. But I had to just, because I didn't want to appear annoying or nauseating and all of that. I wanted to tell her that, excuse me, we are the brains of the planet. I wanted to, so you had MBA, you have an MBA now? I said, yes. So she said, what were you doing between 2000 and 2020 when you went for your MBA? How come you didn't come to MBA? Why did you wait? Were you not the oldest in your class? I said, yes, I was the oldest, and I was the class rep. So I said I was the father of the class. Can you watch the conversation? She's trying to force something on me. And she goes, she's something like, really, you're very brilliant in it. I said, yeah, that's why I'm outside. So I went back to that question. So I spent those 20 years working. I was a senior manager, and at the point I was a director in the largest marketing comms group, where I used my understanding of process and program management to drive value so that our clients. I mean, when I read a couple of issues to her, and she just has only 10 years experience, I just feel like a big manager. And look, in senior clients, and this is not all protocols duly observed, all respect on the table. In senior clients, we won't be across the table talking. But I had to calm down. But she gave me each point. And she said, okay, so what was happening? So I showed her my plethora of certifications, 22 in all. In those 20 years, I had 22 certifications. Some of them she's trying to do. Well, she's trying to get the project management certification, the PMP. In that session in 10 minutes, the most difficult part of that course, I showed it to her on how to do it. She said, wow. But in every meeting till the day I left that company, she would say things like, David, you got anything to say? David, do you have an idea for us? But the conversation started from, what were you doing for 20 years? So So she answered, you have an MBA. So what's your second degree? I said, Masters in Cybersecurity, Threat Intelligence, and Cyber Forensics. She said, what is even that? It will shock you how much people have packaging and there's no content only because they have skin that is brighter than yours. They look more intelligent. They look like they've gone through a lot of things. But the black man or whoever is an African does not know how much you know, and nobody prepares you. There are no workplace coaches. People like Annie who've been in the workplace here for 20 years and above, who need to mentor young people and sit them down, have evening sit down. That's what Indians do. They got evening sit downs and weekend, a career weekend sit downs. This is how to respond to this kind of issue. This is how to talk about this kind of issue. This is how to discuss this kind of issue. This is what to respond to. Somebody throws this kind of jab at you. This is how to respond to the jab. These are very important. And there are many, many remarkable black professionals, in my opinion. I'll yield the mic now, who are superb brains, but there's nobody to help them see the cultural intelligence or what is called the social construct and context so that they don't feel like freshwater fish that's brought into salt water. Look, many times they use terminologies, they have body language, behavioral patterns that make you look like you don't know what you're doing, but that's not true. So that entire feeling is coming from a condition reflex. They condition you to feel inferior because they don't want you to outshine them. If you accept that mental psyche, then good for you. If you refuse it, the best for the continent. And you must have a network of people. That's my solution. You must have a group of friends. You must have a network of people. You must have your go-to people. You must have your own strategy. And biggest of all, we need to start having African businesses. Otherwise, we will keep being pawns in the game of a race that feels a race that would feel they're always superior. We must have African businesses and African networks. That's my big solution. All right, Emmy, over to you. Hello. Okay, I think Emmy was freezing. Christina, can you hear me? Michael, am I still live? Hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello. Hello, am I audible? Am I audible? Emmy, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, my friend. I can hear you. So I fell out for a minute. So I got
All
to
right.
when you said
All
the
right.
conditioned.
Reflex. So
Yeah.
there's a system in place to train you into inferiority complex, and you must be aware of that programming and have both network, that's friends, professional friends, mentorship, family friends, and also financial resources to reject that energy. You must work at it. It exists, and once you leave your own country, you're going to face it. Perish the thought that you're not going to face it. You will face it, but you must reject it. So, anyway, when you're meeting the average professional who's been 7 to 10 years, who's a black descent, even the most confident ones, make no mistake, something happens and the system begins to force a position on them. And it's very deep. It's very deep. And I've seen also people speak very fast and they say nonsense. If you don't ask and say, excuse me, can you please say what you're saying slowly? You know, the idea, the idea, the idea, the idea, walk 100 meters straight, then turn left, then go right, tick, 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 tick. And you will think that something just is being said. No, the person is deliberate is, thank you, ask, pause. Can you please go slower because you're speaking fast and I'm not used to your accent. They are quick to point to our own accent. We're not quick to point. So I can hear what you're saying. The aim of communication rests with the sender. You should let me understand what you're saying. But people feel embarrassed. You want to appear very intelligent. So because of that, you keep nodding, keep nodding, keep nodding. And you're not hearing what the guy is saying. Then you not look like a dunce at the end of the day. Somebody should, help young people or whoever is coming to the country. There should be career coaches who help people to integrate into the workplace.
Coach.
Yes. Yeah.
I've written inferiority complex down twice. I just realized, right? So now you
Yeah.
must have said it more than once, and I'm sure
Yes.
Michael raised the point first. I think.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
look, almost everything you say, I agree. I agree with everything you say. Really, there is an inferiority complex. There is the challenge of moving from where you are to the front of the queue, so to the front of the line, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
In whatever
Yeah.
your niche is.
Yeah.
Yes, we are this word I keep using the word compare because we're comparing against against other people, other other racial groups, other maybe it's sometimes skin color,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay.
you
Can
know
I? Okay. Let me make a quick comparison. There. Number one, there is some very heavy competency. I mean, are you talking about in the diaspora or back at home?
right. I think it's the same thing. Here's why.
Okay.
I think in the diaspora, we have a different challenge. There's four of us on stage now, right? In
Yeah.
studio, right?
Yeah.
We're in the diaspora, and
Yeah.
we've all lived in Africa. We know what it's like to live in Nigeria. We know what it's like to live, in Uganda. We know what Africa looks like. We know what it smells
Yeah.
like every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The lovely nature that we have. We all get that, but we've all had to find a place in a diaspora.
Yeah.
I think the people back home, rather than being born and wanting to find a place in a diaspora, almost remotely for most people, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with us creating our identity, our strength, our self belief, our skills locally?
Hmm.
Why don't we spend a few years developing our skills locally? Because I think when we do that, one, we develop all those qualities I just mentioned: self-belief, competence, expertise, and maybe a different perception of self.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. So
Do you mean? Okay, go on.
when I was growing up, I came to UK, right? And I said I was born here. I went back to Nigeria. I came back here at 13. When kids were being rude, racist, apparently, I did not see it. I just thought that kid has a problem. Nothing to do with me because I was a clever black kid in a school. So I was just working off my self perception from when I was in Nigeria. The whole racism thing never crossed my mind. I didn't know. No, it was a shock to my system, right? And I never took it as me, as something against me, something to hold me down. I was took it as I'm clever in all of them, and they'll find out soon enough I'm clever in all of them. And that was based on the same education that I got in Nigeria. I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
we need that sense of self. We need to develop that sense of self, that sense of you know and it's not just a sense of self. A sense of self comes with responsibility to do the learning, to gain the experience, to do the work, to become that person that we say we are. I think on many of those points, I'm saying, in terms of self belief, in terms of self efficacy, the belief that we can do it, that we really can do it, and knowing that we can. I think those are missing in most cases in people, professionals in Africa, that we are encouraged to engage. That's why we see the misalignment, the wrong result, the disappointment. I think we're too quick to rush to go abroad mentally, or in terms of who we want to help. I wonder what you think. I wonder what Michael thinks of that, what Christiana thinks of that.
Yeah, you're very correct. But again, remember, all of these self-belief conversations is also coming from conditioned reflex. In Africa, when you've battled lack of power, I mean, if you grew up in Lagos, or no, Lagos is even good. If you grew up somewhere where the predominant default is that there's no power, no electricity, I'm tempted to say no NEPA. I mean, you grew up literally in darkness. So having a generator was luxury, which is what a large percentage of the persons who grew up in Africa have to contend with. There's some level of poverty, a couple of very serious issues that people grew through. So there's some reflex, there's some responses that's coming from Pavlov's theory of conditioning. There is some conditioning that's happened to many Africans, and those conditionings are very powerful and very serious. If you get what I mean, Emmy. So
Uh, tell us more. The conditioning, because it happens
those
in
things,
Africa, I can't call it racism.
no, it's not racism. That's what we did to ourselves. But
Mm.
you see, we are comparing. We did it to ourselves. Yeah. We were comparing and contrasting. You see, if you grew up in the West here, where I mean, there was a time I was in Manchester. I remember that day very well, and it was raining. And for whatever reason, it was an all-inclusive apartment, and the what do you call it, the meter finished because the landlord or the janitorial team did not they'd gone to reload the power card, but the electricity power card, but it was just about 10 minutes late in coming. And it's a large building, so they do it together and all of that. It's all inclusive. And for the first time in 4 months, I remembered Nigeria a certain way. I was like, oh my God. I didn't know. There's a feeling. I didn't know that, oh, there's power uninterrupted. I mean, it was a different feeling when everything was quiet and it was dark. Now, when that's your default as a young person and the hours of generator is only 6 p.m. to 12 midnight daily, and you grew up in your formative years, it leaves some trauma in your subconscious mind. It leaves some trauma in your soul, some inferiority complex. So you're right with that there is something that's happened to us fundamentally. And I don't want to go to the historical factors there too. And we have to self-determine. Again, I totally agree. In fact, what I'm saying is that crystallizing this problem and having mentors like you, thought leaders like Michael, wonderful thought leaders like Christiana, people who understand that this is a problem. We have a self-confidence issue. We have a self-confidence deficit on the planet, and there's the P&L implication of lack of self-confidence. It has profit and loss implication. You pay for it. Now, the worst form of payment is when you don't know that money is being taken from you because you're not self-confident. So we have a self-confidence deficit in the continent. I mean, to the point that a very confident African is seen as an enemy of states. We culture our children to keep quiet, not to talk loudly. We give them knocks. I mean, thank God things are changing now. You don't do that anymore. But when I was growing up, you ask some very difficult questions. You are given a knock for even daring to think up to that level. Talk less of opening your mouth to talk about it. So and there are uncles and aunties who felt that when you speak too much good English, for example, you were trying to show off. There's some of your friends, when you articulate too long and too much, the way I'm doing that, they say, what's wrong with you? He always wants to show that he knows too much. So there is a real self-confidence, social, cultural pandemic, and it's big. And the more confident you are, the more you'll be attacked right within the continent there. The more confident, the more you dare to do big things, the more people are going to try and show you down. The more rumors are going to be said about you. And these people are very strong stooges of the Western economies or the people that want to keep us in bondage, in quotes. There's always an African who will sabotage the self-confident effort of another African. They don't, the answer will not do it. So you're very correct. But the point is, we have found ourselves at this point. So this is the preconditioning or the conditional reflex. Our muscles. You see, the word reflex means that it's entered into subconscious mind. That's the only option. Our response is to cower. Our response is not to take it bold and headlong. In fact, it's so serious that when you enter an environment and you're a black person, you're a shiner, you're probably working times 4 times. You're dealing with heavier politics than the average person. But the point is that we need to make this more common. Oh, Michelle is crying. No, Michelle. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Michelle. But that's what the black man goes through.
But
I mean,
so, look, I agree with you. Now, Michelle, look, this
It's
the reason we're
absolutely
talking about
right.
this is the fact that some things we never talk about, and this is one of the things that we
yes,
never talk about. We'll
yes,
skate around it, and people will tell you all sorts, Michelle. It's they'll tell you, I mean, you've mentioned colonialism, for example, coach,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure it plays a part, but I think, I'm with you that we've done more to harm ourselves than other people have.
Yeah, I agree.
I said that's my major.
Uh,
Michelle
yeah,
and I,
I'm sorry, Annie. Let me also say this quickly. But
please.
we were also conditioned to harm ourselves.
Mm,
We're programmed and we're being programmed to harm ourselves. But that is not excuse for us to stay there.
mm.
We need to
Okay.
find a way out of that cycle. We have
We
been
must.
programmed.
We
We
must.
must
We
find a way
must.
out of
We
that
must.
cycle.
The
Yes.
coach. Let me welcome the Professor Roxana. Welcome,
Hey,
Professor.
Prof, how are you?
Welcome, welcome. Again, the reason I want to welcome Professor Roxana especially is because those in the diaspora see this so differently. We really see this so differently. I don't know. I don't know. Michael, I know Michael's tried. Michael does his thing to help women entrepreneurs in Africa.
I'm in the diaspora, and
Yeah, but I'm
it's
saying,
so
but
I'm going to give you a
we're all trying to
personal
raise
opinion.
our brothers and sisters,
I'm going
and
to
we
give you a
face
personal
challenges.
anecdote.
Mm,
When um, when I was in working at a place in the Midwest, um, where was it, Little Rock. I had a boss. We got along, and we talked a lot, with each other, etc., etc. And he noticed something about me. He said that every time I give you instructions, you're always repeating them to me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm always doing that. And he says, that's a mark of an inferiority complex.
mm,
I was totally surprised to hear that. And it took me back. He said it slowly, softly, and everything, but that was just, what? What did you just tell me? What did you say to me? And he's a very confident guy. He's a salesman. You have to be extremely confident to be a successful salesman. And that he was. I was very impressed with what he could do and what he could understand. And now he's a salesman trying to become an engineer. And he was being very successful at it. He was actually considered my boss. That took me by surprise. And I said, me, a total engineer who's come up the ranks and everything, and I'm in the diaspora, you're telling me this? I had to sit back and reevaluate myself and try to understand who I was. And that just shocked me to the core.
mm.
And I ended up thinking to myself, how many people in Africa are just like me? Coach has just indicated everybody in Africa is just like you.
Mm. Yeah.
Consider that a
Mm.
fact.
It's a worry. No, it's a huge It's a huge worry, Michael. It's a huge worry. Look, I'll come to all of you and try and find what your solutions are, what your solution is. if there is one. Christiana, are you still there? I don't know whether I'm hoping you're still there.
I'm still here.
Now, what's your experience of one of the issues that we read, inferiority complex, the need to find our self-confidence, and the need to move beyond this barrier that we seem to have given ourselves somehow.
Are we speaking from all of us as individuals, or in relation to working with African professionals? What are you actually?
Yeah, both really, both. Because I think the malaise or this drawback, this string that holds us back. It holds back our businesses. I think it holds back our professionals, our freelancers, and even those who are experts at what they do. Still have this sense of lack of confidence and lack of, how to put it, they're not number one in their field. They can't lead the field. They seem to want to be. They accept their place as also rans, so to speak. So it affects everyone, as Michael just said, and as Coach just said. It's a systemic, endemic issue that we seem unable to shake.
So we're speaking of partly. Oh, sorry. Let me begin by saying hello, Coach. How are you doing? Good to be here with you and good to see you. It's been a minute, as you said, and it's always good to hear your perspective on things. Hello, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. How are you today?
I am blessed. Happy month to you.
Yeah.
So, what I hear you saying is some form of, or some aspect of imposter syndrome, where we don't feel as confident as we would do. In my experience, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think it's the confidence thing. I think, in fact, it's the opposite. In my experience of dealing with people, I meet more people who have egos, as opposed to the lacking the confidence thing. Is the other way around. And what you find, is that when you hear the ego really come out of people, the next thing that follows is, well, I'm worth I'm worth what I'm asking you for. I'm worth this. And you've said, is that the one thing I would say, it's the over promise, and under deliver. That's what tends to happen, and when that happens, I find my experience of whether I'm going to, Africa, or being in the UK, or going to wherever I go. And I think, like I mentioned earlier on in this conversation, it's sometimes perception. It's a combination of perception and the mindset. How we perceive others, first of all, how we perceive ourselves, then how we perceive others. And whether we project what we perceive of ourselves onto others. So when you speak of lack of confidence, if you're lacking confidence, you may project that onto somebody else. And therefore, your subconscious is already undermining the person you're going to go and do that work with. And this is not every case and not in every situation. I remember when you first started talking, Annie, I did say to you, is this in every industry? Because depending on which industry, whether services or goods that you are, requiring, or business you want to do, you'll find a different mindset, a different perspective. And right now, what's happening is with the access to to the globe as a whole since the pandemic happened, what I'm finding when it comes to seeking services or going out there is people are watching what others are doing and trying to play the Joneses, and then sometimes it's misconstrued in what they want to deliver to what you're asking for. There seems to be disproportion, you know, in when you ask and say, can you, for example, I'll give you an example. I was asking for some work to be done for me on my profile, and anyone will laugh at this because it's like, why you need X, Y, Z to be done? You can do it all yourself.
Mhm.
And I have to say, I don't have the time, right? But here is the thing, and Michael was asking for specific examples. Here's specifics for you. You ask a question, you meet a couple, 2 or 3 individuals who you've found through them advertising that they're able to deliver this. And then you ask the question, can you deliver X, Y, and Z? Yes. Okay. Let's look at what the cost is going to be.
Mm.
And then instantly you are given an amount that is so disproportionate to what you would pay who is in the US or the UK.
Mm.
Literally above. And then you think, okay, hold on a second. Where have you plucked these figures from? Where have you plucked these figures from? Right? It is not that they're not confident. For me, my experience, there's no lack of confidence in doing this. If anything, is the opposite. There is that confidence, and
Really?
people, yes, that's my experience.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't say really as if it sounds so strange. I get where you're coming from. So remember,
But there is
I,
that. There is that.
mm,
Well, what I was. Let me not be. Let
mm,
me speak frankly. So the conversation went roundabout to, well, you know, I deserve as much as everybody else is getting in the States or wherever it is in the UK, without having to kind of show me what work you can do, without having to think about what they are saying. The
mm,
other thing I also find and have found in my experience, and I've been told this, oh well, you are in the UK, therefore you can
mm,
afford to pay me X, Y, and
mm.
Z for.
Money grows on trees. It's, again, Christiana, I think, for me, the point here is, whoever the person you're talking about fails to realize that they're comparing them. You're comparing them to the rest of the world,
Mm.
and you have options. It's not as though
Mm-hmm.
you only have one choice. Them, what I'm saying, if they've realized that comparisons are being done all the time, and we're comparing those who step forward. Maybe we should give them credit. Maybe this my lesson today, my friend. Maybe we should give everyone out based on what Coach said, especially.
Mm.
Maybe we should truly celebrate those who do come forward. But
Yes.
I don't want to celebrate those who come forward and then disappoint, like
And
you're
don't.
saying, like you're saying, Christiana,
Mhm.
disappoint, overcharge, or just fail to realize that our work is not just about money. There's more to what we do than just money. Now, we have a mission. We have a set of values, a set of points. Are you with me? We have a reason to why we do what we do. We all do. But it's very hard for people, some people to appreciate our our drive for a goal, so to speak. They think we're just doing for the sake of doing. Like you're in UK, what you don't just do and just spend money all day. No, that's not how it works, right? We are very serious and we are on a mission to achieve something. If you're going to be part of that journey or you're not, and a
But that,
very big most are not. Sorry,
with that,
Christian.
sorry, with that being said, I must say, that there is great opportunity for both parties. You know, great opportunity for professionals in Africa. If only they will, if only we can actually get to understand. And I think that there needs to be understanding on both sides, understanding and expectations. What's the expectation on my side? What's the expectation on your side? And meet in the middle. Because when I began this, I said perception, right? Perception is so important. It's what the Africa perceives of the West and what the West perceives of Africa. There is a starting point. Until we can discuss these and thrash them out and gain a better understanding of what each party expects, whether in isolation individually or collectively, that work needs to be done. You know, because now we're in a world where it is so fast paced, it is so fast moving that by the time and people are using AI and using, you know, access to the internet to forever evolve or forever get new certifications and new this and understand and getting to really want to hone their skills, if that makes sense, so that they can be competitive in a global market. And the perception is that the whole world now is competitive in a global market. So it's the same all over the place. But make no mistake of it, there are really great professionals in Africa, those who show up, who do the work, who deliver and over deliver. The question is, how do you get to those? How do you get to sift through and be able to have access to those who are able to deliver? That's where I'm going to land my plane. Thank you,
Yeah.
Annie.
No, thank you. I think, you know, I agree with you entirely. You know, there opportunities are there, the people are there. I just wish I could find them. That's the truth. I wish I could find the good ones
No,
that you are there. The
yeah,
way you said.
can I, and Christina, thank you for beaming the light on that. You know, there's a whole module on how to be a professional.
Mm.
Apart from
Yeah,
your technical,
that's the flip side, right? You know,
yeah, there's a whole module.
actually had to be a customer as
Yes,
well.
thank you, thank you. You see, I had the unusual benefit as a young engineer to be a customer service engineer. I learned a lot about service and value delivery as a young engineer. Christina, what you're saying is totally spot on. We also have a lot of people I'm sorry, whose egos are the size of the Atlantic Ocean. By the way, let me say something about ego. Let me say something about ego. Um, Ego is not necessarily a bad thing because the word ego itself means self-esteem
I agree.
or self-confidence. It's bad ego we're talking about, and I say that not even to proceed in an opposite direction towards what you said, Christina. I say that to say so much so a lot of us not even aware of what we are not aware about. For example, that we need a level of ego, good positive ego to deliver value. You cannot be a fearful, nervous person and deliver value. Some ego is needed. The word ego itself is self-esteem. It's the bad ego we're talking about now. The ones that's
You know, so,
larger than life.
I might, you know, upgrade that to self-efficacy,
Thank you.
self-belief that we're able to actually
That
deliver.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah. And you see, when people have become successful to a level, and you have a track record of success behind your back, it takes some energy to remain humble. And I am someone who I have personal humility charts. I learned it from my dad. He has a note in his car when we're very young. Just remember that everything you've achieved is not by your strength or power. That's what the note says. Just remember. So I have a way of reminding myself every morning and night. My own technique is gratitude. Once I'm grateful, I remember that it's a power that helped me to achieve anything I achieve. So I am always down to earth. because success makes you at times forget that grace and mercy helps you. So I'm saying that to say, apart from what you do as a professional, we're looking at humility now, for example, so that you don't rub off against people. And for example, he that does not thank another will thank him or herself. And that person is about to tank off, TANK. The person will soon fall down because pride goes before a fall. There are all the associate modules to being a professional, apart from the value that you deliver. Because think about it. It's a whole module. Think about it. You're a carpenter, or you're an engineer, or you're a surgeon. You're a surgeon, and a bloody surgeon. You're not the only surgeon out there. Why should I leave another surgeon to come to you? It's because there are other things. When I'm around you, there's humility. When I'm around you, there's care. When I'm around you, there's hope. When I'm around you, so I don't just get well, there's an extra compliment that you put on top of delivery. And for you to have that extra compliment, you must have a system in place as a professional. So there's a whole module around how to be a professional. And that's what I'm saying, that people like you, Christiana, Michael, and Annie, and Joanne, and every other person who is passionate about making the world a better place, we need to have, for example, modules like how to be a professional, how to be professional, how to be empathetic. I've worked with Lebanese, I've worked with Indians, I've worked with Pakistanis, and I've worked with fellow Africans. Let me shock you. I'd rather work with non-Africans. The bigger the money,
You
it's
don't
money. It's not trust. The bigger the money, and the stakes, the more arrogant they get. Number two, there's this pull it down mentality. When any is successful, I should actually want to partner with any. No, the black man will want to start another thing down the road. He will want to compete with any. He will want to compete with. What was he doing? What was he doing? What was it that I cannot do? Instead of us to pull resources together, and I said this the earlier times, we need to start having African clusters. Are you aware that in the United Kingdom, in London, there is a whole network of Indians? Look, Indians, whether you are in Chester, in the United Kingdom, or you're in Manchester, or you're in Chesterfield, or you're in Chester Close, there is a Prajet, a Patel, a pick whatever the name is, there is an Indian who will integrate you into the core system and plug you. And if you need someone at the far end of the United Kingdom, there's a chain and a line of command. The Lebanese have it. The Indians have it. Africans in the United Kingdom, let's take, for example, use case Nigerians. The first set of Nigerians that settled in the United Kingdom was not late. I mean, their people have been here since 1930s. Their families have been here since 1930s, since 1920s. Some are 1950s. And we don't have a strong network like that. Either the person that is trying to help or the person being helped, one of them will attack each other for destruction. I mean, ordinary contribution of 10 people, $1,000, a pound. I told them, I said, until when there were 9 of them, I said, the day the 10th person joins you people, I'm interested to watch what will happen. They beat each other up, slap. It became a policeman, £1,000 contribution. Once it became 10,000, another group started, a group of medical doctors, pharmacists. They started contributing. I said, when your capital hits £100,000, one person or two of you will pull out. They said, no, they know each other. They even quoted that they were Christians. The way lawyer had to, arbitration and law needed to settle the final, they were trying to take each other to court. Just go see how Lebanese, Chinese aggregate together and they build wealth. What Annie is saying and what I'm taking away from here today is that we need to find a means for Africans to work together. Why? It affects the overall self-confidence. There's a net and a system for the Africans upcoming to come into. And I don't know why, and I'm sorry I will say it this way, because there's a lot of money to be made on the streets. We just don't have the systems or the nets together. I stumbled in Manchester, on an Indian meeting where about 2,000 Indians. It was a very noisy afternoon Friday. There was a long line, there was a big hall, they were having something, one Indian festival. And this my Indian friend said to me, who I went to, after lecture, I went to give him a flash drive because it's an assignment. I had done my part and I couldn't mail it. Was not attaching, and it was a deadline of that 4 p.m. And he had his laptop at that place, and it was just about £10 to take my cab to go and see him. He said everybody who is an Indian, including the lecturers in my university, were all in that place. He says, Adi, all of us are here today. Even the most important of us, everybody in here in the entire Manchester area are all in this meeting. And that's how we have it all across London, all across the United Kingdom, everywhere there's an Indian somewhere they can talk to. I did not sleep that night. I was tossing on the bed after my nighttime meditation and prayers. What's the bigger point? As a solution, Africans need to work together more, because indoctrination, like Christina, the feedback you have now, many African professionals who are successful need to hear you talk. Now, please, you're obnoxious. You make people feel so low because the person may not be self-aware enough to know. Michael has had a lot of experience helping women and all of that and mentoring many businesses. Many more people need to hear his perspective. Let me give you one last shot. An uncle of mine told me many years ago, he said, oh, no matter the money you make, I mean, this is when I was still very young, I was about 12, 13, 14, 15. And they said some Nigerians were having problems, they are very successful. This my uncle said to me, he said, you know, the stupid things that those boys are very poor. He said they're very poor. So they've not made enough money. So I asked him what happened. He said, when Africans make money in the United Kingdom, they make noise. You bloody keep quiet and go in and out quietly. Welcome, Joanny. When you make money in the UK and you're an African, keep very quiet, keep still, don't make noise. That's simple. Do not make noise. How many words are that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do not make noise. Those 4 words can save your life. If a mentor, someone like Annie, who has seen a lot of money and business, say, no. Don't make that kind of noise. Don't do this kind of thing. Don't go there. Those simple things can make that word last long in your hand, rather than have the IRS and everybody following you up and down, and you've not even made any money. It's just a little few £1,000 in your hand. Look how he said that, Christina, that if you're a professional, there's no need to be loud. Deliver value, because after you finish servicing Christina, you're going to meet Joe, who is Christina's friend, and Christina's going to tell Joe that, Joe, I've got a good guy who can help you do this, or a good lady who does this. Because you have all the money in the world, you should be kind and nice. Those things, we need to have those mechanisms of feedback among ourselves, because some people really have a lot of blind spots. That's my other point. But thanks for that, Christina. Well said and well put. Johnny, good to see you.
No, beautiful points. Now, look, what I take from that, it's not a skills problem. It's an attitude issue that we have.
It's also my.
Go on, sorry, Christiana.
Sorry, Annie. Coach David, you said it's spot on, but it's also, as I said, it's a mindset thing. When you talk about not just mindset, also it's also learned behavior. When you talk about, the fact that other groups can gather, right? You've heard. I'll give an example. I had an uncle who was building back home when I was younger. He came to here and he returned, and he began to build his home for his family. He had a family of 4 at this point and growing. And he decided to build back home rather than have support around to say, oh, and he was willing. The thing is, he was willing to offer jobs to people, work on land, from the land itself to the brickwork to building. There's an opportunity there to really work together. But that wasn't the case. The case was, okay, how can he be having this house? What can I get out of this? Right? That in itself is a mindset situation that we really have to start to listen and speak about openly. The truth of the matter is, it's difficult, and I know I mentioned ego before. Ego isn't always a bad thing, but for the most part, in these situations, it's a very negative thing. It's a destructive character to have, because we don't want to hear each other out. We don't want to, and this is the world over. the one thing about it is in every space that we occupy is the world over, right? I said before, how do we do that? We do it in smaller groups. If we're trying to get 1,000 people into one room, that's not going to happen. But let me say this too. Have you noticed, and I'm pointing this to Coach David now. Have you noticed when we get in spaces of worship, there is a way of listening to, there's a hierarchy that happens, and we're more
Absolutely.
likely to listen. So
Absolutely.
for me, I understand people when I've come across people who say religion is a negative thing in our communities, because it's the only time that we can work together, we can come or seemingly appear to work together, right? There's more that's achieved through that. And here is my thing. I think that if that's a place that we can work together, it makes sense to begin with that in that space and start
Mm.
to cultivate these thoughts, the perceptions, and start to break them down from in within. So I think that for me, I've had a long time to think about this. As somebody who is part of a community, of the same community, I believe that that is how we begin to truly impact or change the narrative.
I
You know,
fully,
because
I fully agree with you. Sorry, I cut you, Christina. You don't know how spot on you are. But again, Michael was saying something about leadership. We need to take the gauntlet. Someone
Mm.
needs to bear, some people need to bail the cat, and they must have the resilience, prepared to be betrayed,
mm-hmm,
prepared to be misunderstood, prepared to be lied against.
absolutely.
Because it's not easy to lead fellow black men in a foreign land. When
Mm-hmm,
you give counsel to a Nigerian, because you've been duped all your life, for example, you're thinking, it's me they want to dupe. I mean, you're showing the guy the correct path. You're showing somebody the correct path. The guy
mm-hmm.
says, hmm, hmm. He's still reading the material, like you want
But
to do something. So you
but
must
this,
have the mental. We must have the mental. I'm agreeing with you that we must have the mental resilience to lead each other.
Mm.
That like in places of worship, that's a very good one. That we
mm-hmm,
all fall in line one way or the other. That we can actually do it. That's the point I hear from what you're saying. And we should actually take the bell and give each other this feedback that look,
Yeah.
we are poor in the diaspora in quotes. And I'm not saying that to disparage anyone. I'm just
mm,
saying or to discountenance the achievements of all men and women of color. But I've worked the Afro-Caribbean Society in the United States. I've been to about 25 states of the United States,
mm-hmm.
and I've gone round. In Atlanta was where I almost cried. Was that Atlanta? Yeah. When I said,
Yeah.
can you take me to the black community? They took me somewhere downtown. It mirrored some parts of Africa. It mirrored some very deep.
Mm.
I cried. I couldn't stay there for more than 7 minutes. We drove past. I said, we
Mm,
are one. Two things hit me. Oh, so we are one stock. We are the same. Number
Mm.
two thing that hit me, because I looked at the behavior, I looked at the environment. It was downtown, right in Atlanta. I forgot the name of the area. It was a combination of streets. We drove around by 1 a.m. in the night. They said I should wait till night, so they took me around. I couldn't dare come down from the car. Now, what I'm saying is that wherever we cluster, we need more leadership.
yes.
We need more inspiration among ourselves. And we should
Mm.
get ready. We should get ready to be disappointed. We should get
Mm-hmm.
ready to, some people not follow us easily, but some people must bail the cat. That's the bigger point that I hear from you.
I also think as well, we need to start to deal with the real trauma as the experience of dealing with each other. There is that part to think
Hmm,
about. You know,
hmm,
when you think about seeing what happens, even in a religious place or in a church environment, those things exist. However, let's not forget some of these faith places operate as a business, right? So if we can really doing business in a religious environment, let's look at that and take it out into the wider community. But we must deal with the traumas first, because that has a huge part in the perception, in the mindset, and the behaviors that we see. Coach David, you mentioned, briefly, when things happen, or when I think you mentioned a person who just said, well, look at that, this is what's happened, and I trust them and I have confidence in them. And when it came to dividing the money equally or dividing the money at all, we're now faced with litigation, right? That in itself is traumatic. It's traumatic. So that prevents that person from trusting next time, or for wanting to do anything, and prevention,
Very, very
right?
true.
So
Very
which means
true.
you that happens within a space that is supposed to be God fearing, much less when you go outside of that. That is the highest place of, respect, fear, and I guess, honesty. So if
Mm,
that's there, can you imagine?
mm.
So me, the reason I state clearly, we already have a base where people can come and gather. We have to start thinking about, how do we cultivate, how do we remain in that, and start to change mindsets
Mm,
to
yeah. Again, Christina, you need to, these things you're saying, you need to pin it you need to frame it and turn it into action plan globally.
I
You're
agree.
hitting,
I,
you're hitting some very, very powerful notes.
so here's the
Um,
thing.
yeah.
I'm doing that in my own service, where I am in my local place of worship, because it's something that I have literally monitored for the past 2 years very closely, from the notes to the information to this to that. And this past weekend, I approached the pastorate commission about it, to say, look, I really believe that there's an opportunity here to truly bring people together and to take this out to the wider community. So it remains to be seen. And I've been asked to kind of put a brief about it together. But the reality is, we have to start looking at these spaces, because that's the place we spend most of our time. Think about it, from the evening service to the Monday evening, to the Wednesday half week service, to the Saturday, to the Sunday. Most people I know who are believers spend most of the time in work and church. And that's the reality, right? Work will
Mm,
mold you one way or the other. Church definitely molds you one way or the other. If, depending on what you are looking for, what you want to get out of it. So the
mhm,
reality is, we need to start looking at, how can we make a real impact, make a change, and use these places, because people will pay everything and pay anything, even what they don't have, they will put inside church.
Mm.
mhm, mhm.
And so why not then use that as an opportunity to say, hey, how can we have these conversations? How can we break down the barriers that we face within ourselves? Because other communities manage that very well,
Mm. Mm.
you
Mm.
know? Anyway, there's so much to say. I land my plane.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there is so much to say. Let's hear from Joni, because I have another event. We're starting a new room. Me, the Michelles, so Michelle B, Michelle R, and also Paulette. So do join us for our talks about neurodivergence.
Hi.
How
Hi. I feel like I shiny like lotion on my face. I tell you.
You're looking glorious, Joni. Have you read your book, Joni?
I have. Yep. A couple
Are
of
you
notes
liking? Are
that
you
I
liking it?
what?
Are you liking it? Are you thinking, what the hell is it done here?
No. I'm liking my book. Yeah, a couple of quick notes, but geez Louise. Okay. Hold on.
It's,
Let me
it's all right. It's all right. So I'm intrigued by Michelle's point.
so here's
Uh,
I quick point. You know, so do you know, like, I'm sure everyone who is listening knows how many countries in Europe and United States and Canada have just been really buckling down on any sort of immigration, and which I'm not, I don't agree with, but we're not going to go there. And so, but the decline from the Northern African countries has been 33% versus 2024. And that's a huge number. And so that means that the seventh biggest country in the world has a chance to just make it on their own and make it so that potentially you don't have to depend on oil. You could do some other alternative energy projects. And I'm so just not well versed on this, but all I know is that as a human being, you figure out what makes a buck in your country, and then you kind of expand upon that. And I really know in Nigeria, freelancing and platforms like Upwork and Fiverr and Freelancer, they really do offer opportunities to kind of get ahead in e-commerce and content creation. And so um, I really encourage you guys to like really well, just like let me come in the country. Just like if anything, I have the and but also just really like make your own self great in your own country because you have the numbers behind you to support it. I mean, and black don't crack, all right? So all us white people are gonna be like, what? And black people are gonna be like, yes.
You're too funny, Joni. You're too funny. You're too funny.
And also, I did want to say just a quick word to all of the people who have friends or family who are surviving after the earthquake and in Malaysia. And my heart goes out to anyone who's lost someone, and it's significant. And it just feels like sometimes all the world is just coming down around us, and I dislike it. I
Mm.
But I just wanted to say, anyone who knows someone there, I very much I feel just incredible empathy for you. And I think that's a good way to end.
Excellent. Look, Joni, send me the login details again, please.
Yeah.
On here will be nice. On LinkedIn, right? But no,
Yeah.
look, I appreciate your point. Now, of course, we have opportunities, but we have to start local. I agree. That's where we build our resilience. That's where now there's something called grit, the will to work hard, the will to overcome, the will to build yourself. Yes, and that's what it takes, and we need to build that grit. That way we're not just talking. Look, my friends, amazing conversation. Michael, I wonder whether you have a last word for us, literally, before we go today.
Um, Implementing what Christiana has been talking about is paramount. It's extremely important, and what she's indicated, this particular conversation that we've had needs to go all out and into Africa because there is significance in what we're saying, and we need to have conversations. We're hiding our, ourselves and and thinking that we don't do these things, but it's a reality. We do them, and without the conversation being expanded into Africa, we're not going to move forward. All Africans must be talking about this. All Africans must be trying to implement and avert these situations because they start all the way from home, in our own houses. Because you have to think of yourself and say, where exactly is where exactly does this source of this situation come from? In the house. The sources come from in the house. You go to the Western Europe, you go to their houses in the United States, in Great Britain, wherever they live, you do not see this kind of situations. The kids are confident, the kids speak outrightly, and the kids are genuinely, they don't have an inkling of doubt in what they do. They talk to you like as if they're grown-ups themselves. They even talk to you like as if they're superior to you. It's quite amazing. So we also have to take that into consideration. This conversation has to continue. In fact, I implore that any you bring this up again, over and over and over again until we get it. Because I don't want a one stop, because we're just going to talk about it and forget about it. No, you really need to bring this up over and over and over again. Give us ideas, test us, find out if we have improved any by bringing it up over and over. This conversation has to continue. I certainly appreciate that.
And I did want to just implore anyone. I put the comment in the LinkedIn chat about this podcast that I listened to, that if anyone has young men who are living at home, just the kind of the rapid change in our young men that has happened because of social media and how much they have felt, I guess I want to say infantilized. That's definitely not the right word. But anyways, I listened to it. It's about our young men growing up in a different type of generation. And it's a fantastic podcast. So check it out. I'm not part of it at all. So you can check it out if you want. But anyways, and then I showed you my picture I did of myself. And if anyone would like this picture of my mom I drew, I will be selling it for
Are you
10
going to
cents.
frame it?
It's going to be 10 cents. No, she does not like it. She does not think that her nose is correct. Just little
Jamie,
jokes at the end.
yeah, you always make us
It's
laugh.
serious
No, you always
subject,
make us
sorry.
laugh. My
Just trying
friend,
to joke a little bit, right?
my friend, thank you so much. Olushola, our HR genius in Nigeria, glad you're here. Pastor Alo, I think I saw you earlier as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and many more who joined us, and Dr. Roxana, and many more. Michelle, especially, and I say our next show is starting in 12 minutes, so I do have to go. He said, I'm fascinated by Michelle's comment that we need to learn Africa's ways before you make deals. I wonder. I'll leave that hanging. Michael, I'll bring the conversation back several times. It's not the first time we talked about this, so I'm sure we're going to talk about it again. And I tell you, no, it'd be good to get some sort of rain check on where we are, how we're progressing. There'll be a day when, as we have the conversation, everyone says, "Any, we are on top of the world." That's my hope. To be fair, right? That's my hope, because we have the knowledge. It's not the knowledge. We have the potential to truly achieve greatness. Many of the things we've said today, believe in yourself, starting local, starting small, having the right attitude, these are all things that we need to really look at and truly be honest with ourselves and what we are trying to do, what we're willing to do. Look, I thank you. Please join us again in 2 weeks' time. Oh, I can't say that without mentioning Coach David's book launch on Friday. Do join us, please.
Oh, good.
Friday, 3 p.m. UK,
Bye.
3 p.m. GMT.
Well, and Annie, I can't let you go without saying what wonderful people you have on stage. Like, what wonderful minds. I mean, Christiana, she's so eloquent in her points, and Michael, he is just like he really is cerebral in how he thinks about things. And Coach David, he speaks from his heart, and is such a learned man. So I'm grateful to even be here.
No, Joni brings it all together. That's a good thing.
Thanks,
Look,
Joni.
well, I appreciate your kind words. Really, I'm blessed to have this lovely people, and including you, Joni, in my community, and especially those who do speak. So do speak up. Look, join us again in 2 weeks' time, my friends. Better still, join us for our conversation about dyslexia. If you have some time, I'll send you a link. I'm sure that starts in say next 10 minutes.
Send me a link. Yeah, my daughter is. Yeah, okay.
I'll say bye for now, but I will play my outgoing music. Thank you so much. But join us for Coach David's book launch. Connect with him.
This is what the boys were doing who got sent to El Salvador. So I can't do that sign anymore, apparently.
Bye, everyone.